Redditors who lost their job because of a post to a social media platform. What happened? I remember hearing a story about a young teacher in my province getting fired for posting vacation pictures to Facebook. Bikini, margaritas. A dipshit parent or teacher reported it, as any uptight group of PTA mothers would want to defend young eyes from that. That's stupid. See, this is the sort of crap that pisses me off. A teacher who is on holiday has the right to privacy and should be allowed to do whatever they want outside the school, so long as she is not wearing bikinis and drinking margaritas in school. I am a-okay with it. What people do outside their work lives, and on holiday especially, is of no concern to anyone. I didn't actually get fired, because I just don't post about work, but I did once get written up, almost suspended. But my supervisor convinced management he needed me for the shifts that day. Once, I was scheduled to work a double, 16 hours, no breaks in between 3 days in a row. Before I went in for my last double, I updated my Facebook saying I am so tired. They literally tried to suspend me for that. Once upon a time at a large East Coast electric company, we had a big winter storm and were pulling 18 per hour shifts all week, for roughly 2 months. Anyone stating that they were tired or miss their family, whether to a customer, on social media, or to a co-worker, was fired on the spot. That place was heck. Guy at my company got sacked for putting a Facebook status along the lines of FNG immigrants. I hate them not realizing both his bosses, also owners of the company, were second generation immigrants from India. They started the company from scratch and now employ 30 people. They pay for full gym membership, healthcare, and generous pension for all the staff, which he had to say goodbye to when he was fired. How's that for your effing immigrants? I saw a friend post an anti-immigrant meme on FB recently. Her parents and her in-laws are immigrants. I suspect her issue is with immigrants of color, not European immigrants. Not me, but a teacher got fired because she had been tagged in a photo on Facebook of her in a brewery. She'd gone on a tour while on vacation. She wasn't holding beer or anything, was just in the photo. I didn't get fired, but I did get written up for a post on Facebook. It was about 5 years ago at my old job. Spring just started and it was the first day. It was in the 60s. On lunch I posted something like, "What a beautiful day. Can't wait to get out of work and enjoy it." Well, that didn't go over well. Funny thing is, I wasn't Facebook friends with anyone from work. They had one guy that would creep people's FB. This is when I learned about privacy settings. He told the boss and I got pulled in the office. They basically asked why I didn't like my job and why I couldn't wait to get out of work. I was like, it's the first warm day in what feels like 6 months. Of course I want to be outside. The reason I got written up was because I was on Facebook at work even though I was on lunch. Bunch of buttholes worked at that place. It's kind of surprising how delusional bosses are. Oh no, he might want to get off work and enjoy a nice day. Call him and we must investigate what it is to be human. Not me, but a friend of mine. He and his girlfriend, at the time, both worked at Zeller's. He worked as the head cook in the in-store restaurant, and she worked as a server hostess. After a few years of being together, they decided to get married. They announced their engagement proudly to everyone, and the branch manager of their Zeller's gave them a massive discount on food and supplies for the wedding. The wedding preparation took nearly a year, but they pulled it off and had a great wedding. When they went to return to work, however, my friend's wife was promptly dismissed because husbands and wives aren't allowed to work in the same department. After months of lead up to their wedding, the manager somehow forgot to inform the happy couple that getting married would mean one of them being let go. So my friend posted on his Facebook, "Zeller's has a policy where a husband and wife may not work in the same department. Because they did not tell me and my wife this policy, my wife has been fired. If you disagree with this policy, please contact Zeller's at." The next day, he was fired as well. Well, at least in the long run the joke was on Zeller's. I had a co-worker who posted something about shooting up X-World TM and got reported. He had several co-workers on his Facebook page, and then fired. Another co-worker is consistently posting hateful things about his job and his co-workers, but has not been fired yet, just reprimanded. On a sort of related note, I was suspended in high school because a friend posted a terrorist threat via my Facebook. Sure, a friend. One of our best agents got fired for this. She was a single mom, fairly new to the job, but she was great at it. She posted up, "I hate having to go work, but I'm blessed to have a job at company name." Bam. Walked out the door. TLDR. I threatened to pursue legal action and open a case with the local governing body that manages workers' rights. My employer told me to go pound sand, so I made good on my threat and won my case. I can't talk about specifics, but I worked as a lifeguard all through high school and university. One of my boneheaded co-workers thought it would be a good idea to film himself and a few of the other guards dicking around on the deck toward the end of a shift while a few people were still in the water. He posted it to Facebook, and anyone who appeared in the video or commented were let go. I had a case against my employer for several reasons. I did appear in the video, but I was off the clock and out of uniform, wearing street clothes, meaning that I was unidentifiable as a pool employee. I was visible only in the corner of the video. At no point was I seen in the frame taking part in the dicking around. All of our dismissal letters had the wrong dates listed, which showed blatant negligence on our employer's part in properly investigating what had happened. Half of the people who were let go were not present at work on the day our dismissal letters claimed the video took place. This was in the earlier days of social media, so our employee manuals and disciplinary guidelines did not include any material regarding social media usage whatsoever. No patrons were hurt because of the guards' actions. No negligence could be demonstrated on their part. Our employer did not follow its disciplinary guidelines in terms of warnings, suspensions, etc. All of us had clean records in regards to the incident. Comcast fired me for a tweet I made. Here's what happened. Someone on my timeline posted an article about Comcast customer service. Someone replied to him saying, "Wow, Comcast actually has customer service? LOL. Working in customer service myself." I reply, from a personal account that is in no way connected with my job, with the tweet, "Yup, we do. We complain about management as much as you do." Comcast did not like that. Despite me having zero personal details on Twitter, they somehow still figured out it was me. I realized after that I had GPS autolocate on for my tweets, so I suppose they could have looked through that data to figure out where I lived. I checked. It's clear what house I live in whenever I tweet about being home. Anyway, the point is, they linked the account back to me and fired me for suggesting the employees are anything other than 100% happy all day at work. Seriously, that's almost what they said to me when they fired me. The best I can recall it was, "You said the employees aren't happy. We can't have people suggesting the employees are in any way unhappy with management. It makes us look bad as a company." Comcast has worked extremely hard to get the reputation it currently has, and things like this will make people see Comcast in a negative light, which is unacceptable. They also implied, though did not outright state, they're letting legal look at it to see if they have a libel case against me. It's been 5 months and I haven't heard a dang thing from them, so I assume not. The weirdest part was, the woman firing me seemed completely unaware the general public hates Comcast. Comcast has worked extremely hard to get the reputation it currently has. Whoa, just wow. I lost my job because I was upset at my boss and I put it on Facebook. A customer threatened me and instead of kicking me out, the boss bought him free shots. So I posted to Facebook that anyone who came and cussed me out would get a free shot and VIP. Someone I know posted something about a customer on her Facebook. Nothing revealing about the customer, just ugh. Don't you hate when your customers are too freaking dumb to RTFM? A friend of hers, who worked for a competing business, took a screenshot of that status, including the profile pic of her in her work uniform. This then found itself posted on the competitor's FB page with the text, "Don't worry guys, she doesn't work here." Anyway, she got fired. Not exactly the same thing, but I once had my college call me asking if I was still planning on attending. Apparently they had looked at my Facebook and found a picture of me in some other college's shirt. It was just one of my brother's shirts. I didn't think anything of it, but it was kind of freaky that they were going to those lengths. A guy at my company got fired for posting a picture of weed, illegal here, sat on top of his company security pass, with his name and the company's name in plain view. Frankly, he was too stupid to have a job. At the moment, German Facebook is full of anti-refugees, anti-asylum and all kinds of prejudice-related pages. Some of the comments on there are very hateful, to put it lightly. Holocaust references, gas them, send them to camps, etc. Aplenty. Well, the people commenting aren't the brightest most of the time, and they don't realize that their comments are a public B, in some cases illegal, and C, have consequences in the real world. Loads of people had to go to court, were fined or fired from their job already. So to answer your question, many companies from small family-owned to multinationals take it very seriously. Nobody wants to be associated with certain people. The example I was given during new hire orientation. Someone's fiance sent a bunch of flowers to her at work. She took a picture of them at her desk and uploaded them to Facebook. In the background were a couple clearly readable classified documents. Understandably, once HR found out, she got terminated. Didn't lose my job, but got a stern warning though what I posted was an honest mistake. I worked for a pipeline company that had to perform a specific type of river crossing with explosives. It was all approved by the regulator and stakeholder, but because of the sensitivity of the river and engos in the area, they wanted to keep the video of it on the DL. I was provided a copy of it and wanted to show my dad. I was about 23 and my dad also works in ONG, so I thought he might find it interesting. I couldn't email it, too big, so I uploaded it to what I thought was my private YouTube page and sent him a link. My YouTube page apparently wasn't set to private and my boss got wind of it through a contractor. The name of my YouTube account very obviously pointed to me, and he got pretty pissed at me and told me to take it down. Luckily I learned my lesson early in my career with minimal impact. That is, I didn't get fired and my boss got over it. About posting anything work related on social media. I rarely post about my job or ONG in general on my FB, and I'm very careful about what I post on here too. Had a co-worker who was 40 years old take drunk pictures while playing beer pong and partying with minors, all while wearing our very noticeable company branded shirt. He put all the pictures on Facebook and could not understand why he was fired. He saw nothing wrong with it. We had a guy get fired where I work because he posted a video on Facebook of himself outside our plant wearing his uniform snorting Kool-Aid. He was a bit of a clown, so he was just doing it to make people laugh. I think our union may have got him his job back a couple weeks later. Story about hiring someone. I worked as a senior tech for a college help desk. Prior to interviews we Google all candidates mostly to see if their name pops up for anything interesting. We see his Facebook page and his profile picture is him doing a beer bong. Midway through the interview we slide the picture out on the table and continue on like nothing is out of the ordinary. After we finish up questioning we tell him that he should be more careful of what is on social media. 20 minutes later we check again, his Facebook is private. We ended up hiring him. Totally great employee too. This is yet another reason I like living in Nevada. We have a law which explicitly bans employers from taking any action against an employee based on things which are done during their off hours, provided they are legal. Your story is a great example of why social media content shouldn't matter. The guy doing beer bongs in his off time was a great employee. Oh boy, Scarf Tuesday story time. So here's a funny and quite immature story. I'll keep it short and sweet. I worked for a place that has a gift shop. Inside of this gift shop were the most ugly, unwearable scarves on the face of the planet. I was younger and didn't really care about the company or any possible consequences. I started a movement called Scarf Tuesday. Basically, a few of us, on the clock, would meet up at 9 every Tuesday and wear a scarf for a photo on Facebook. These photos started getting likes and people loved them, so we kept going. A few months later, I get pulled into my boss's office. On the wall, I crap you not, are at least 20 of the Scarf Tuesday pictures with the faces blurred out. My boss asks me, to this day, the funniest question I've ever been asked. What do you see here? I smiled and told him it looked like employees wearing scarves. He said he found it hilarious but it was unacceptable and he was disappointed. Apparently somebody watching the cameras wasn't happy and watched us for weeks piling evidence. Everybody, 15 people at least, Had similar meetings in the next few days. I didn't get canned right away because we stopped doing Scarf Tuesday, but the retaliation was awful and eventually I was blamed for just about everything that went wrong and got fired. And looking back at it, it was foolish. I fell into a deep depression for a few months because of being unemployed. It helped me grow into a man though, and now I have a full-time managerial job making twice as much. I'll never regret it because it brought me on a path that led to a better life. TLDR. Scarves get you fired. I really don't get what's wrong with this colon. I once had to fire 5 employees in the same day because of a social media post. One of my employees, we'll call him Richard, came to me really worried because he had heard that another employee, Joey, had his new shoes stolen from the employee break room and was worried since he had heard that another employee, Eric, had taken them. When I asked him why, he hesitated and said that Eric had posted a picture of him wearing the same shoes on Instagram the day that Joey's went missing. Joey had come across the picture, and now Richard was worried that there would be a fight or argument because of how angry Joey was. I asked Richard to get me a copy of the photo, as I didn't want to speak to Eric without proof. He told me he didn't have an Instagram, so he wouldn't be able to show me the picture, but he knew Eric's username. He shared the username with me and I checked it out. Sure enough, there he was wearing the exact shoes Joey had described, dated the same day they went missing. Now, this obviously isn't enough to be sure that he took them, but it was enough that I felt comfortable asking about it in an effort to get the shoes back. However, as I scrolled down a little, another photo caught my eye. It was Eric and 4 more of my employees, looking completely wasted in the employee break room, with a bottle of Jack. They're obviously not allowed to drink on company property. The craziest part was, Richard was in the picture drinking with them. This poor sap was trying to help prevent the other guys from fighting, so he directed me towards the Instagram page, not knowing, since he didn't have one, that there was something incriminating of him on there. 2. Eric apparently hadn't told anyone that he had put it up. They were all working that night, so we had to pull them in one directly after the other, for several hours straight, to fire them each. They all admitted to doing it and it was a huge pain losing all that staff on the same day. The moral is, don't do stupid crap, and if you do, don't post it on the internet. In my wife's nursing school class, she had a classmate that was kicked out for taking pictures of patients and posting on Instagram. Some were with permission, some were babies, some were not with permission. She was very religious and asking her friends to pray for their healing and such. The thing is, even with the permission of the patients, it's a huge HIPAA violation. She was warned by classmates not to do it. She ignored them, then was found out. Not me, but a girl I went to college with, in the same program as me, interviewed for a position at the school I teach at. The principal loved her, but then we found tweets from her asking to borrow a gun to go to the interview. I teach at an urban, inner city school. It gets worse. She then went on to post a similar status on Facebook, something to the tune of "My ride to work will be all click, click, locking my doors." The principal printed out the tweets and confronted her with them at the final interview. She said they were meant as a joke and the principal stone-face responded, "I'm not laughing." She was blacklisted. She still, 4 years or so later, cannot get a teaching job. I once didn't get a job since I don't have Facebook act. Apparently they wanted to see the kind of person I was, and I told them I like my privacy. I've walked out of an interview because they wanted my Facebook login. I once got fired from a state government job for criticizing a local representative in a letter to the editor in a newspaper. I worked at a small department store. Turns out, one of the employees had an anonymous hate blog about working there. They identified the managers and staff by initials, detailed exactly how he would torture each one, and also gave enough details about the store and themselves that it was simple to figure out who it was. They showed up for work to a police officer who escorted them to the office. They collected their final check and they were banned from that and all other locations. My tutor, an aircraft engineer, told me this. Some guy was using a genie forklift and ended up scratching the aircraft and caused £40,000 plus of damage, but didn't tell anyone and tried to hide it. The base supervisors asked everyone and they all denied it, but this guy tried to blame my tutor by saying he saw him using it. Nothing happened cause there was no CCTV evidence. but the insurance covered it. Then stupidly a few months later this guy posts on Facebook about how he got away with damaging a plane by blaming it on somebody else. Fired next day. Got accused of stealing money from the staff locker room when I was actually going to the toilet. Flipped my crap. Straight to FB talking about throwing my manager out of the office window. Coming next day to a disciplinary with printouts of the status, lucky they didn't read the comments. I have heard of several teachers lose their jobs due to something they post online. Parents hold teachers to a higher standard than others. Low pay, little respect, and oh yeah, everything you do in public will be scrutinized. Can't understand why there is now a teacher shortage, sir. Not me, but I took a class at my local community college called Foundations of Education. My teacher was telling us about horror stories with teachers and social media. The one that stood out was this girl, about 23 years old, got fired from her first job because of a picture she was tagged in on Facebook. She had a clear Solo cup with a yellow, foamy liquid in it. She was at a party and made a goofy face in the picture. She got fired for drinking at a party even though she was of age to do so. This will probably get buried, but what the heck. I asked for an afternoon off because my best friend was having a cancer scare and he was going to the hospital that afternoon for screening, so I wanted to be there for him. I was very open about why I wanted the time off, and my boss said I could take the time off, as long as I took it and paid instead of using it as vacation time. I went and met my friend at the hospital, but he was almost done, and since I was cleared for the day, I took him out for a drink, you know, like you do when someone thinks they have cancer. He checked us in on Facebook. I legitimately wasn't trying to hide anything. I wasn't trying to sneak around. So my boss calls me in the next morning and has my Facebook up on his monitor. I was friends with a co-worker who had turned me in. I explained what had happened, and he still fired me on the spot. The aftermath was that when I filed for unemployment, we had to go to a hearing and explain the whole situation to a judge, who basically told him that he was insane. So there you go. I managed to get a warning at work when a colleague was interviewed for a promotion and mentioned that investigation work was a strength. She then proceeded to prove her investigation skills by telling management I'd threatened to shoot the place up. My FB post had actually said, "Kids are winding me up. I've spoken to them and given a warning shot." She didn't get the job, and I successfully appealed the warning on the grounds of common sense. Kid on my college baseball team got kicked off for tweeting song lyrics. My redneck coach read it out loud to the team and yelled that if the kid was dating his daughter and he saw the kid tweet stuff like that, he would take him into the Ocala National Forest and bury him where nobody would ever find him. Then we had to run. Oh frick, of course it's Alachua County. Another not me but a co-worker I knew post. A few years back, there was this woman who was the secretary to my employer's vice president. Sometimes she'd be asked to cover the president's CEO's secretary's position. If she, CEO's secretary, was out sick, she also oversaw manage the front receptionist and file room clerk positions. She thought she was over anyone who had the title of administrative assistant, even if it was specifically for a particular department. Several times she tried to get me to do something outside of my department, when I had a million other things in my own department that I had to do. One time when I was doing something for her, my boss asked what I was doing. I explained to him, and he went off on the VP's secretary. She tried to say that the file clerk was busy with one thing, and the front desk receptionist was busy with another thing, but my immediate boss wouldn't hear of it. After that, I never heard one peep out of her. Now, back to what got her fired. She apparently had been fussed at over something by the CEO or one of his daughters, who also work at the company, family owned. She went to MySpace, back when it was popular, and posted a long rant about the CEO, his daughters, the CEO's secretary, the VP, and several other people. She posted about how things are handled at the company, and other crap. She was friends with a few co-workers, and I think it was one of those co-workers who printed out the post and gave it to one of the daughters or the CEO. When I came into work, I found out she'd been fired. It was a huge relief for a lot of us. She'd been nothing but a B to a lot of people, thinking just because she oversaw the front desk and file room, She had power over all other administrative assistant secretaries. After she was fired, I think the IT manager took over the front desk and file room, but he kept it pretty much just front desk and file room. He never bothered me about doing something extra like making up binders for a certification class to be taught there, or help set up for some outdoor event we were having. Used to have one every year, or anything of that nature. Only time I've ever interacted with him was when it involved my computer or the department's printer. Not myself, but a co-worker lost his job for a Facebook post. He told his boss he had to leave work early one day due to his wife and child being involved in a serious car wreck about 3 hours away. The next day he called and said wife was in ICU and child was in serious condition. That night boss saw on Facebook where employee's wife posted that they were at home watching movies and getting drunk. Called him in the next day, and employee refused saying she was still in hospital. Boss told him he had printouts of the Facebook post and fired him over the phone. Edit. Clarification. I worked in a cinema, and someone posted to a local subreddit asking how to sneak their 18M girlfriend, 17F, into an 18 rated film. I suggested that the person with it bought their ticket at the ticket office, red ticket, and the person without it bought theirs at the automated ticket machine, blue ticket. Now the staff on the floor noted checkered for blue tickets, because red tickets would be checked at the time of sale. So if they then swapped tickets so that the person without it had the red ticket, and the person with the blue ticket had it, they should both be able to get in. Long story short, a customer saw the post, and then emailed the franchise I worked for, and since my city only has 2 cinemas in it, and I had posts of my tattoos in my profile history, they figured out who it was. I was asked to go to the office on Halloween night, made more enjoyable by the fact I was dressed as Han Solo with a Nerf gun. I then had to go to a disciplinary meeting and was told the result of the investigation was that I would be fired. A social media policy was shortly after enforced more strictly. Not me, but I know someone who's trying to get a job in tech and doesn't understand that her very public searchable Twitter page where she talks about how the world would be better off without white people might make her sound like a horrible employee. And if you Google her real name, tons of hate pages documenting the last decade or so of her online life pop up where she's accused of harassing others. And yes, she applied to Twitter. I've brought the topic up once, but she insists that anyone reasonable would understand that she's just venting, blowing off steam and wouldn't take it seriously, and that employers don't do basic background checks, and also that accessing someone's public social media page is harassment and stalking. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.